Good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for my appearance, but I just got off work for the week. Welcome to another episode of Spilly Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, the usual disclaimers. Now, before I get tarred and feathered for my rants on the previous videos, I do intend to actually make a video to kind of solidify my position, as it were. When it comes to the conflict going on, Palestinians versus Israelis, I am not in any way, shape, or form condoning any form of cruelty. The point I have been trying to make is I don't approve from cruelty coming from either side. And if you think the Israelis have not been cruel and inhumane to the Palestinians, you need to do better research. Okay? I've said it on this channel 1,000 times when talking about us autistics, right? These types of very violent behaviors and actions, they don't come out of nowhere. These people did not just come out of their mother's wombs hating everyone Jewish. That is naive, it's prejudiced, and it's just not dealing with reality here. Okay? At all. At all. People become radicalized because they're ripe for the picking. They are vulnerable. They are angry. Okay? You got to have a little bit more of an understanding, because as long as we just continue to dehumanize people and call them terrorists and just write them off and decide that the answer is to blow them to kingdom come, this crap is just going to continue forever. We got to understand, how does one become radicalized? What are the contributing factors that are leading these young folks into groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS? Okay? Just continuing to dehumanize them, continuing to just, well, they're monsters and write them off instead of trying to understand the human behavior, the motivations, the anger, all the things that lead up to what we're seeing on the news right now, then it's just going to perpetuate. Okay? We're not going anywhere with chanting for Israel to blow Gaza the kingdom come. What is that going to solve exactly? It will ignite the Muslim world. Okay? If you don't understand this, all right, I'm tired of trying to explain myself. Just try to wrap your brain around the fact that these individuals engaged in this conflict are human beings. There is a reason why human beings become ripe for radicalization. Until you deal with the things that send people down this path in the first place, then the cycle will continue undisturbed with impunity forever. Okay? Now to the disclaimers. In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. Oh, sorry, shorter version. God. Long week, folks. Long week. All right, to the disclaimers again. Take two. I don't have an edit button. I'm tired. I'm cranky. Can you tell? disillusioned with humanity more than usual. All right, folks, in the description box, if you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, I want to let you know all the pertinent links in regards to those campaigns can be found in the description box. One in particular I want you to note is the one to the article written by NeuroClastic, a non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The JRC felt so threatened about this particular article that, excuse me, they threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused. So, folks, please read that article and share it on all your social media. Allergy season. You're also going to find a link in there to NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC actually see through with their threat. Folks, when we speak about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, an agape boarding school for boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please use your headphones, all right? This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised, all right? We may reread a few things because I've slept since then. The framework of the last half century around autism has resulted in only a fraction of research dedicated to sensory processing, or even the dramatically shortened lifespan of autistic individuals face from high suicide rates, self-harm, high incidences of PTSD, and more. Right there, folks. People, I don't think neurotypicals could ever really quite understand how much sensory issues kind of frame our lives, really. Like, to the point, and I've used this example a couple years back on one of my vids, when I was working for FedEx Trade Networks and I was doing coding for customs for them. There was a time when they had, well, it was basically one giant building, and they decided to redo an entire half of a building and take down a wall. Well, folks, just that never-ending constant sound of drilling throughout my day, and being so overwhelmed by that constant sound was so bad for me that it produced a literal physical reaction out of me. I busted out into hives all over my body. Those hives did not disappear for 2 weeks. Okay? It affects a lot more than what people think it does. So when they pull these little stunts, like, well, you need to begin to desensitize yourself. Here's the thing. This is actual reality. I'm autistic. Let me explain it to you. There is no desensitization. Okay? It is going to be the same level of painful every single time we deal with that particular sensory issue. Okay? It does not abate. It does not change. You do not get used to it. Okay? I am so tired of hearing that from so-called professionals, I can scream. All right? There's no such thing as desensitizing yourself when you're dealing with sensory issues, okay? What you can do is try to minimize what is causing and provoking those sensory problems, reasonable accommodations, or in that case, maybe if I had been allowed to take some of my vacation time while they were working on the building so that I wouldn't be busting out into worse and worse hives as I continued to work through it. You see where I'm going with this, right? All right, now we're talking also about high suicide rates, self harm, high incidences of PTSD, and more. So, where is this coming from, folks? Because after all, ABA is supposed to be the gold standard, right? So, if that's the gold standard and it's supposed to prepare me to be out there amongst the normies, why is it that so many of us end up choosing to take our own lives, engage in self harm, or every single last one of us I have ever spoken to in my life, and this includes young children, I might add, have some form of trauma in our lives? Because you're dealing with a model that, at its very base and core, denies me my human dignity. The creator of ABA, and I've showed this quote here on this channel before, literally stated that when you have a person with autism, you have what looks like a human being: eyes, ears, mouth, nose, hands, a leg, and a body, but they're not really human. So we have to rebuild them. Now, modern ABA has tried to distance themselves from this particular quote, but they haven't changed its core principles. Because what does ABA try to do? You may say, well, it's teaching you how to eat right and do all these things. No, it's trying to force me to be neurotypical, which is an impossibility. We have proven over time that literally the very makeup of our brains themselves are different, starting from day of birth, from our neurotypical peers. There have been literal brain studies done. I know I participated in a few of them. Okay? So, if this is a failed premise, because you can't really change how our brains work and how they process things, what is it that ABA is actually doing? It's teaching us to create a mask. There's a reason why many neurodivergents get into acting, folks. It's because we learn at a very young age, either on our own or through ABA, how to create a role and become that role. We call it the mask. You've heard me refer to mine several times. I call it the doll. Got to go be the doll, right? You've heard me say that before on multiple occasions. That's what it's teaching us autistics to do. Now, why does this have psychological ramifications? Because essentially, by trying to force us to pretend to be neurotypical, you are saying to us that we, as we are born, as we are as human beings, fully realized autistic people, autistic kids in particular, are not good enough. And that in order to be given common human decency, to have our human rights respected, to be treated with any form of respect, dignity, love, or to even be able to achieve friendships with others, that we could never really do that as ourselves. So, the only way we are able to obtain these things is to pretend every single day of our lives, every second of our lives, to be something that we are not. And for those people who be like, but they can't speak. They don't know. They know, Karen. They know. All right? They know. Of course, there's going to be psychological issues and trauma. Just from that alone, we're not even getting into abuse, torture, aversives, public school. We're not getting into any of that mess. We're going straight to the base here. Baseline, you as who you are. You do not deserve love. You do not deserve affection. You do not deserve a role inside your community. You do not deserve to have your human rights respected unless you jump through all of these hoops and pretend to be someone you're not. And if you don't jump through these hoops, then we're not going to treat you as a human being. And there's a little lie in there. Smidgen. The fact of the matter is, folks, no matter how good of an actress you can become, no matter how good at masking you are, there is always something off because it's not authentic. Because I'm not really being me in that moment. And people will pick up on it. And you're still ostracized. You're still bullied. You're still thrown into places like the double teen industry or places like the JRC. You see where I'm going here, right? The only reason I became as good as I was is I was willing to come out with my diagnosis on a very public platform, but to do so in a way that neurotypicals approved of, hence the doll. I was basically used because I'm very good at masking, unfortunately, for my own psychological health. And in that persona of the doll that I created that is my mask, I know how to talk, dress, move, what words to say, to nod and smile politely in a way that neurotypicals approve of. If I had not been so good in utilizing that mask, I can tell you point blank, folks, nobody would have ever listened to a single word I had to say about anything. Okay? Moving on. I kind of went on a little bit longer of a rant than I intended to. This body of research from which ABA therapy emerges, along with Lovelace's theory that psychiatric patients require punishment for their symptoms, he received widespread acclaim and several awards during his lifetime. Lovelace's work in ABA inspired him to apply the same techniques to gender nonconforming children. The project's poster child committed suicide in 2003. Who's shocked? So when you've seen online, on Twitter, on Facebook, when you hear autistics tell you that ABA therapy is conversion therapy for autistic people, we're not mincing our words. We're being as literal as possible. Okay? Conversion therapy and ABA go way back, and they are very deeply intertwined. But whereas the mainstream does indeed condemn, conversion therapy, they continue to pound their chests for ABA. What does that say, folks? Maybe it makes the high suicide rates, self-harm, the PTSD, makes it sound like no wonder, right? We're going to go ahead and close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this evening. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you next time.